A nation divided, a prosecutor tested. Letitia James stands at a pivotal crossroads. A fierce legal warrior, she finds herself embroiled in battles that extend far beyond the courtroom. Her clashes with the Trump administration, her ambitious consumer protection legislation, and a looming criminal probe have thrust her into the heart of America's deeply polarized political landscape. The outcomes of these legal battles will not only define her legacy, but could also reshape the balance of power between state and federal authority, leaving a lasting imprint on the nation's legal and political landscape. James, a Democrat and the first woman of color to serve as New York's Attorney General, has built a reputation for taking on powerful interests. Her legal pursuits, however, have placed her squarely in the crosshairs of partisan warfare. Supporters hail her as a fearless champion of justice, holding the powerful accountable and fighting for the rights of everyday Americans. Critics, conversely, accuse her of weaponizing her office for political gain, engaging in ideologically driven prosecutions designed to advance a partisan agenda. These contrasting narratives underscore the high stakes surrounding James's legal battles. Her legal pursuits are not merely abstract legal disputes, they are visceral contests over the soul of American democracy, reflecting the deep ideological fissures that divide the nation. The outcomes of these battles will have far-reaching consequences, shaping the future of federalism, the scope of executive power, and the very essence of justice in an increasingly polarized society. At the forefront of James's legal agenda is a series of lawsuits against the Trump administration. These lawsuits, often filed in conjunction with other states, challenge a range of Trump-era policies, most notably in the realm of immigration. James argues that these policies, often implemented through executive orders and administrative actions, exceed federal authority, violate constitutional rights, and undermine state sovereignty. One particularly contentious lawsuit targets the Department of Homeland Security's attempts to withhold federal funding from so-called sanctuary cities. These cities, including New York, have adopted policies limiting cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, arguing that local resources should not be used to advance a federal agenda they deem unjust and counterproductive. James contends that the administration's efforts to coerce compliance through funding cuts amount to an unconstitutional overreach of federal power. The outcome of these lawsuits could have significant implications for the balance of power between the federal government and the states. A victory for James could embolden other states to resist federal policies they deem objectionable, potentially ushering in an era of heightened federalism. Conversely, a defeat could strengthen the hand of the executive branch and embolden future administrations to pursue similarly aggressive policies with less fear of legal repercussions. Beyond her battles with the Trump administration, James has also championed ambitious legislation aimed at strengthening consumer protections and reining in corporate misconduct. The cornerstone of this effort is the proposed Fair Business Practices Act, a sweeping piece of legislation that would significantly expand the Attorney General's power to investigate and prosecute businesses accused of unfair or deceptive practices. Proponents of the act argue that it is necessary to level the playing field between consumers and corporations, providing much-needed protection against predatory lending, deceptive advertising, and other unfair business practices. They point to the shrinking resources of federal agencies tasked with consumer protection, arguing that state-level action is essential to fill the void and hold corporations accountable. Critics, however, contend that the act goes too far, removing important legal safeguards for businesses and opening the door to frivolous lawsuits. They argue that the broad language of the act could ensnare businesses in costly litigation, even for minor infractions, creating a climate of fear and uncertainty that could stifle economic growth. The Fair Business Practices Act has become a lightning rod for debate, encapsulating the broader ideological battle over the role of government in regulating the economy. Its passage would represent a significant victory for consumer advocates, but its implementation will likely face legal challenges and fierce opposition from the business community, ensuring that the debate over its merits will continue long after it becomes law. Even as she wages these legal battles, James finds herself facing a legal ordeal of her own. A criminal probe initiated by the Justice Department under President Trump alleges that James engaged in mortgage fraud prior to assuming her current role. James vehemently denies these allegations, characterizing them as baseless and politically motivated retaliation for her aggressive pursuit of Trump and his associates. The outcome of this investigation could have profound implications for James's career and legacy. Exoneration would allow her to claim vindication, bolstering her image as a courageous and principled public servant. Conversely, an indictment and conviction, however unlikely, would be devastating, potentially ending her legal career and casting a long shadow over her accomplishments. Even a settlement, while allowing James to avoid the most severe consequences, could carry a political cost, providing ammunition to her critics and potentially weakening her standing among some constituents. The specter of this investigation looms large, adding another layer of complexity to an already fraught legal and political landscape.